Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. Today on our show, we have screenwriter and director Harry Larter. Harry, welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, mate. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited.
Glad to have you here. So you're a screenwriter and a director, and that's awesome. I can relate in both those fields. But before we jump into that, when did Harry discover filmmaking?
I think all my life I've kind of really been invested in film and TV. It's always been a big thing for me. It's a turn off, and if I want to switch my brain off, I just put a film on. Always been like that. Um, I guess I've always written stories. I've always been a writer. I remember during school, I wouldn't advise anyone else to do it, but I would sack off my schoolwork and I would just do some writing instead. I'd write stories and novels and stuff, and that kind of led into writing scripts. Um, mm, and I studied psychology back at sixth form, and I ended up actually using some of the stuff I learned to write my first proper script. And then in doing that, I then moved away from kind of normal kind of academic studies, and I moved into kind of learning about film and TV. So it was the school that kind of got me into it, and then I left school to do it properly.
Awesome. Could you share us a little bit about that first project that you were writing? Because you said it necessarily wasn't a screenplay just yet, right?
Yeah, so the first project I ever did was a film I made back in 2018. And it was about, I at the time had just gone through a breakup, and I used psychology to kind of learn about what that does to a brain. And then I wrote a film about a boy who'd gone through a breakup, and then his subconscious kind of came to life, and they kind of had to like sort out the internal issues that the boy was having. And so I wrote it. It was called Subconscious, and it was the first thing I did. I wrote it, directed it, and then acted in it myself as the main character twice, because I had to appear at the same time, both on the screen at the same time. And then from then on, it was just a kickstart for me, and I just started making more and more.
Awesome. So let's stay on that for just a quick second. So how was that experience being that you had to play multiple roles? Was that something that you wanted to do, or that's just something that just had to happen to get the project done?
A bit of both. Before that, I'd come from a background of acting, so I'd done a lot of acting in drama and stuff, and I'd always wanted to be like an on-screen actor at the time. And then so I thought, oh, I'll make this just to make it, and then I'll just act in it as well because I like acting. I hadn't realized how time consuming it would have been to film this thing so many times and do the bit. I had to change clothes and stuff because the character of the boy just wore like normal like hoodie and jeans sort of thing, whereas the character of Subconscious wore a full blue suit. So to change character, I'd have to completely change outfit and stuff, and that was quite consuming and something I said I'd never do again. But I then went on to make two more Subconscious films, none of which are available publicly anymore. But it was at the time something I was really proud of and happy with.
Awesome. All right, so now let's jump into some of your projects that you have here. The first project let's talk about is titled Presence. How did that concept come about, and how was the experience working on that one?
So that was from me and my friends entered a 30-second film competition. So we were like, okay, let's just enter this competition. It's like a little mini kind of competition that they did in London. So we were going to all make a film together, and then we ended up making films separately. So I came up with two ideas. I came up with Presence and Noise, and both of which were entered. Presence then went on to win a runner-up award, which I thought was really cool. And that was, it was fun getting to do such a small little project with very little. There wasn't a massive deadline, so it was nice and easy kind of working my way through it. I had the one actress, so I had my friend Mia come and do some acting for me, and we went and found a graveyard, and luckily found like a blank grave that we could use, which I thought was quite nice. It was a bit of a relief knowing it was a complete blank grave. And we were there for probably 2 hours tops working on that film, kind of discussing ideas together of what we'd want to do. The script was quite bare because there wasn't much to tell. It was more just about the shots and stuff and how we'd focus on her character, grieving her loved ones passing. And the idea was to bring a sense of warmth in at the end. So as you have that in the film, you have the hand that kind of reaches over onto her shoulder. The warmth of the screen comes in, so it fades from like a pale blue to like a nice warm orange. to kind of show the transition of how she's feeling internally. You think, as an audience member, you're thinking, oh, is that a real hand, or is that kind of the hand of her loved ones passed on that's kind of reaching out, sort of thing? So working on that was the least stressful project I've ever done, which was quite nice, having a pretty much stress-free project, and Mia really helped with that as well. And yeah, it was I think probably one of the more enjoyable experiences I've had on a full time on a set.
Awesome. So I have a question. So the 30-second film festival. So how how was that as a challenge to create something? The film had to be 30 seconds. Am I correct? Or
On the dot, yeah.
how would you explain that challenge to you going into that?
Well, I mean, it's a very much it's a difficult thing to process, because when you think of a film, you tend to think of a 2 hour, 1.5, even like 90 minutes to tell a full story. You think of a short film, you think, okay, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to flesh out that story. When you say to someone, you've got 30 seconds, tell this story, you have no time to mess around. You have to start, finish as quick as you can and tell a full story. So you have to, I would always say, jump in midway through the story. Don't give too much of a backstory, but let the story that you tell be enough to kind of let the audience know what the backstory is. And that was the thought behind The Girl at the Grave. You don't need to know, as an audience, I wouldn't need to know who it is. I would need to know that there is someone there grieving for someone else. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what I wanted to tell. And I thought it was possible in 30 seconds. And it was just about possible.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. All right. So you did mention noise. So if you can share a bit about that project as well.
So that was a bit of a different kind of vibe. So the idea of this challenge was to make a film about something that brings comfort. So the two ideas I went with was the presence with the hand on the shoulder, but noise was a bit of a different kind of challenge I set for myself, in that I was going to film in a busy area, not just the kind of the rural um, place I filmed Presence. So Noise, I went to London in the UK and shot with a really talented actress called Maria, and we did the shoot in the middle of a busy London, which brings about its own challenges for a multitude of reasons. You've obviously got the people in the background. I don't want to show too many faces because that's a lot of forms to fill out. Yeah, so letting make sure people are all right with being in the background of it and stuff, kind of facing away. Continuity was a big thing. And if you watch that film, there are a couple of things that I would have wanted to do differently. But when you've got that lack of control in the middle of a central city, there's not much you can do. So that was very hectic. We filmed kind of towards sunset of time on a weekday, so it was a bit easier. I think there wasn't as many people as there could have been. So that was a bit more. It was very much more shoot and go, rather than with Presence and Mia. We took our time. We were slow. I calculated the shot. I was like, right, this looks good. With Noise, I had all my camera and stuff on a gimbal, all set up, all ready to go, and it was very much just, right, looks good. Let's just shoot and see how it looks at the end. So that was a much more intense. We've got the sun setting in the background as well, so continuity. So Noise definitely much more intense than the nice calmness that Presence brought me. So yeah, I'd say definitely more intense on the Noise sort of side.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. All right. So now let's talk about this next project, Eventide.
Yes.
How was the experience on that one?
So that was a completely different sort of vibe. So that was, I'm very used to doing stuff on my own. I'm very used to filming on my own. Some I'd get a cinematographer in. I've got one of my good friends, Alfie, who normally come in and shoot for me if I ask him really nicely. But Eventide was a group project from the get-go. So that was our final university project. And that came from a place of, we were in this group. We had to do this final project. We had different roles. So I took the role of writer. I was like, okay, cool. I'll write a story. Mine was blank for so long. We had a couple of different ideas. None of them worked. And then I came up with an idea of years and years and years ago. I was fascinated by the idea of the end of the world, always fascinated by it. And I'd go down to my dad and I'd say, right, if the world was ending, what would you do? And my dad would say, oh, I'd make us a nice dinner. We'd play a game or two and we'd let it happen. Whereas my mum was a bit more, well, we'd do something about it. Realistically, there's nothing you can do. And that were the two kind of opposing ends I wanted to tell. And this story then came about of these two parents dealing with the fact that the world is about to end. There's a meteor on its way. The world's about to end. and their child is hard of hearing. So they had to kind of navigate this kind of scenario in that they didn't know, do they tell him? Do they not? Does he figure it out? And obviously, without spoiling the end, they choose one of those routes, and the world does end. A meteor does hit. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's pretty obvious if you look up anything about this film. So yeah, working on that was very different. I had to write this script, and I worked really closely with the director, and I would give him draft after draft and a draft, and he would offer notes, offer feedback. He'd come back with, okay, I think this is what we could do. This is what we should do. Have you tried it this way? A lot of the time I would say no. And a lot of the time I would tell him, I'm not doing that. But sometimes I'd be like, okay, yeah, I like that. I see what you're thinking. I see kind of what you're putting down with that. So I would kind of go back, do another draft, bring it back. And then we'd go on to set eventually once the script was, I did 17 drafts of Eventide, I think, in the end. Finished off, got it greenlit, went on to set, and I moved from writer to script supervisor. So my job immediately changed. Still based on like a kind of around the writing part of the side of it though. And then we get onto set, and I'm kind of dealing with continuity and stuff. And I had a continuity helper with me, who was really good. But then making sure that all the scenes were like correctly done, make sure the lines were delivered correctly, talking to the director quite closely about how I think the line should be delivered, or how he thinks it should be delivered, and whether or not we'd agreed with it or whether we didn't. It was something we figure out on set. So the best way to describe working on that film is it was a lot more stressful than anything else, because not only were we carrying this film on our hands, we were carrying people's grades for their final project on our hands. I think the director definitely felt a lot of tension about that. I was there for a good time and a good grade. Got both. And this film then went on. So we finished it, was in the editing room for a long time. I didn't spend too much time in the editing room, but the director spent a lot of time, the editor did, sound guy, all of them spent a lot of time in it. Came out with a film that we all really, really like. We entered that film into so many film festivals. We've had a couple back now. And I think it's played from memory. I could be wrong, so I apologize if I am. But from memory, we've played in quite a few places in the UK. I believe we played in Los Angeles, I want to say. It's bad that I don't know that off the top of my head, but I am fairly confident we have played in Los Angeles, which is really cool to know that a film I've written has played like overseas. Like that's like mind blowing to me. The fact that it played in a little university room for our classmates was mad enough for me. But we also then played in the British Film Institute in London. So we played on a big cinema screen for people to come and watch from the university. And that was really cool. So albeit incredibly stressful, it was also probably the most enjoyable experience I've had as a filmmaker in the grand scheme of things.
Awesome, awesome. And congratulations on getting your screenings.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So now this next project, Hanging by a Moment. How was coming up with that project, and how was the experience on that one?
So that one was a fairly different story and from anything else I'd written before. I've always kind of tried going down the route of hard-hitting, gritty, emotional. I want to kind of bring the audience in, and then one of my favorite things to do is pull the rug from under the audience, because I love that in film. I mean, one of my favorite things is my favorite film of all time is Seven, and you have that at the end with what's in the box. You see what's in the box, and you have that rug pulled from under you. So I've always wanted to replicate that sort of moment. So I tend to do that a lot of my writing. Hanging by a Moment had that, in that it was one of our first university projects. So it was similar to Eventide, and it was a group project. And this one was about a boy who had basically had enough. And it's quite a sad story. I imagine it's quite triggering to a lot of people. But it is a story about a boy who essentially is tired of the way his life is going. And he does end up killing himself towards the end of the story. But then you have the rug pulled from under you in that he actually doesn't. And he's actually been imagining what it would be like and what would happen in the aftermath. It actually ends on a relatively positive note, in that his sister in the story comes and kind of comforts him and makes him give him that kind of that safe and homely feel, which is what I wanted. So you kind of do get half of that rug pulled. I directed that project as well as I wrote the majority of it. So that was quite tough, but also it's a sense of relief knowing you're getting exactly what you want out of it, as long as the cameraman did his job, which he did. So that was quite nice having that story on screen. but definitely a quite hard to tell knowing the story I was telling because it's not an easy subject in the slightest, and I know how mentally damaging that story could be to people. So to handle it with as much care and just carefulness, I think, as best we could. So then that was quite stressful from that point. But making that project was quite fun. It was a lot of similar run and shoot. We knew roughly what we were doing, but it was kind of walking around the city we were in and kind of getting the right shots. I also acted in that as well. Our actor pulled out, so I had to be the main actor as well. So it's kind of similar to Subconscious in that I wrote, directed, and then had to act in it, which added a level of stress on top of it. But another project that I am really happy with and proud of to this day.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. All right. So Harry, so how can people find you online? Do you have a website, IMDb, social media links you want to share with us?
So I have a website. It's I'm cheap and I don't pay for it, so it does come with the whole. I made it on Wix. It does come with the whole Wix thing at the start, but it is just. I mean, I think it's just Harry Larter. I think if you do search Harry Larter into Google, a lot of it does come up. IMDb comes up. IMDb annoyingly still has all the old films that I made that aren't public anymore, so that's where you can find Subconscious, and you can see a little bit about that, as well as a couple of other films I made in college. So that's quite annoying. But IMDb is up as well. There's a bit of information up there. It is. I think if you do just search Harry Larter on Google, a load of information comes up, which is a bit daunting actually. But I think that's because of IMDb. So I think most of it's on there. Instagram is the handle is just Larter Films. Instagram is what I'm probably most active on, replying to quite a lot of messages on there and stuff, and kind of interacting with people, trying to get a networking sort of thing going on and know as many people as I can. So when stuff comes up, I can either ask for advice or I can kind of get actors and actresses in that sort of way. So Instagram is probably the easiest way to do that sort of stuff.
Awesome, awesome. Everyone, give him a follow. Check out the projects, and we'll also have those links in the descriptions. So you mentioned Larter Films.
Yes,
You also have Larter Productions.
I do. Yes, yeah.
Could you share us about how did that company get started, and why did you feel that you needed to start that company?
Okay, so as well as film being a big love for me, I've always loved kind of photography and videography. And I never wanted to combine the two because I always wanted separate things for both of them. So I started out as Larter Productions, which is how I made a couple of my films and then moved on to more film relevant pages. But Larter Productions is just photography and videography. I do quite a lot of photo shoots. I've not done one for a while, but I've been busy. Photo shoots and kind of video shoots. I work closely with a couple of clients. So I've done a couple of client photography work with like perfumes and stuff like that. I've also done videography. I've worked with a client for a long time, Future Goalkeeping, who is a very good goalkeeper. I'm sure he's going to love me for saying that. And we do like quite a lot of video shoots together where he takes advantage of everything I have in terms of equipment and uses it to make the best YouTube videos he can. We've done loads of stuff together. We've actually filmed in Chelsea Stadium in the UK, which is quite cool. It didn't mean anything to me. I'm not a football guy, but it was cool for him. So that was enough for me. So videography is probably the main thing I strive towards in the minute. So I've got all the kind of the equipment for that. And photography has taken a bit of a back foot, but it's still something I love. And it's just Larter Productions was a way to kind of get sort of photography and videography jobs. It hasn't done so well in terms of jobs. But like I said, I'm a busy man. But I'm always looking to kind of work with people and kind of, if people need stuff done, I'm happy to kind of get involved and film some stuff or do their photos and all sorts of stuff like that.
Awesome, awesome. Reach out to Larter Productions. Let's get some more projects out there. Let's keep these filmmakers going. All right, Harry, we're at that part of the show where I ask the guests this question. What is a book, a TV show, or film that you recommend to an aspiring screenwriter?
It's a big question. It's a big question. I've already mentioned it, so I think I'm gonna have to say it again. It's mine and my mum's favorite film growing up. She got me into it, and that's kind of where I get most of my emotional, gritty writing style from. But Seven, I mean, I can't fault a bit of David Fincher. I mean, I worship the ground that the film Seven walks on. I think it is perfect in every sort of way. I think it does everything so unbelievably perfect. I could watch it again and again and again, one after another. The writing style, I've got the script as a book and I've read the script several times. Even though the script I've got actually is a newer draft, whereas Fincher went with an old draft to film it. So the ending's a bit different. But I mean, mentioning the ending is next level. I don't think they're ever going to replicate a film like it. I think it is the top notch of filmmaking, and it's how I kind of got my style of writing from. I like doing that gritty, kind of hard hitting, as I said, pull the rug from under the audience sort of style, and that definitely comes from Seven.
Awesome, awesome. All right, everyone. That is our episode for today. Remember, check us out on YouTube. We're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our title is Insight Plug with two G's. Remember, Insight Plug with two G's on YouTube every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Harry, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing more of your work out there.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, everyone, that's been our episode. Remember, stay inspired and keep creating. Insight Plug, signing out.